first get who did give us the translation for this, as this was a 5-round event in China. Where we have a war horde list. And so what was fun about this is we do not see tank busters. So I did want to cover that to a certain degree. And it was interesting because most of the time they don't get coverage, when we here and there. It's a bit hard with the language barrier. So I'm glad someone actually reached out, wanted to translate things for me. And so I thought, yeah, it was cool because you guys know I'm a little bit kill rig soft spot, right? So wise on you get for that. So with this list, to our friend in China, I can't enunciate your name, so forgive me. So we have 2 beast bosses, nice and traditional. Boss Snickrot, right? Kind of contentious here and there. I know all the time in my Discord, for example, or just when I see online, it's, is Snickrot too pricey? GW increased them kind of out of nowhere. He was really good where he was at. Some people still love him. But I think with his limited shooting and kind of unit count and everything being in transports, I can see why he likes Snickrot for those secondaries, right? Sometimes you can even bait in people to kind of get close to shoot him. Then we have Gazgul Thraka, what some people would call the backbone of tactical Warhorde, excuse me. And then we have 2 war bosses, one with Follow Me Lads, 2 10-man units of Snagas, 2 truck, 2 SWAT teams with Breaka Boys. So 2 Breaka Boys unit with 2 flash kids. I'm just gonna say right now, we had some good Breaka Boy action this weekend, absolutely for sure. Tank busters are getting all the love because you pretty much see them copy and pasted in most detachments on most lists, which is very well suited. I mean, we understand why that is, but it's really nice to see Breaka Boy love. So SWAT teams of Breaka Boys for that damage 3, 2 units of Gretchen, just enough to screen your backfield, right? Just enough, because we actually do have the deployments, the missions, and everything for from this get. So shout out to you. And then he has 2 kill rigs, and he is playing on WTC terrain layouts, by the way, followed by 3 Mega Knobs. So you guys know how I feel about the kill rigs. Absolute value for their cost, but so susceptible to getting alpha strike. So hard to deploy. Do take planning, premeditation to a certain degree, knowing where you can kind of end up in staging spots, where you have to kind of end up knowing that if I do get popped here, I'm going to disembark from the transport safely. So just a few words from our friend. He said that the list is built around kill rigs' toughness and their value. The flash kits are really important for the early game skirmishes and locking down objectives early to get the enemy to either commit to you in combat because they want to get through a screen, or they're going to combine arms, shoot at you, and try to fight you. In some cases, you could overwatch, of course, with this flash kit unit if you have to. So he thinks that they're a big deal. Really important for the early game, which we're going to see redundant of that when we go over all the lists today. Is we can't underestimate the value of one, having a skirmish unit, but the value of having our optimal skirmish unit, which is the flash he gets, because a mixture of their toughness, their shooting, and their fighting, which is what we're seeing here, and what he actually kind of builds the list around, at least to a certain degree, early game. One thing that always get asked, and where we are going to talk about today, because I ask every Warhorde player that I'm talking to, how do you really feel about Breaka Boys without a war ball? There's a lot of opinion of just bring more stuff, just bring a lot of units. You guys know I like trash units. I love trash units. I don't like to play expensive stuff necessarily. And it's like I could just bring a bunch of boys and knobs and Breaka Boys and very limited leaders. And I really like when people limit their leaders. So there's great value in that. Then there's the arguments of how do I deploy, kind of gets congested, the clock time, unit activation, stuff like that. So there's different degrees of pros and cons, of course, in every archetype. But in this one, you can see he packs everything neatly into vehicles. Therefore, when I ask about these SWAT teams, these Breaka Boys, he said they're key for just demolishing any target. The war boss is what allows them to do that. There's a lot of -1 in the game to offset that. Great possibility of just whiffing, and then the Breaka Boys low volume. So in this case, he just goes absolutely. And of course, you don't want to get tar pitted necessarily by like anything with like 2 wounds to an excessive amount of unit. The war boss allows you to bring those volume punches if someone's trying to tar pit you. And so just necessarily that he actually brings them as well. And yeah, and so like he said, whenever the flashes come out to skirmish, they end up getting charged necessarily sometimes after, if it's a shooting matchup or after they do their shooting. Shout out to our sponsors, the Baron of Dice, as they helped us do our wall tactic dice. So shout them out. Check them out in description, 5% off in the discount because nobody likes taxes. And shout out to Baron of Dice. They allow us to do our paint competition. So thank you very much to them. So now we'll look at the actual mission pack because they get actually sent it. So here we go. And in this mission pack, because he had to translate, the mission pack for us, he actually put the enemy list that we're going to see here as well. So that's important because, like I said, otherwise this would all be in Chinese. So shout out to you. So round one, we have search and destroy, raise banners, linchpin, right? Really classic mission. We have this WTC layout right here, search and destroy 4 and 5. His first matchup was good old Gladius Smurf Marines. So we have the Gravis captain, Malnius Calgar, and then Rabute Gilimi. One intercessor unit for that sticky, 2 ballistas dreadnoughts, and then of course the company of heroes for Mr. Calgar. Gladiator Reaper, right? This is actually very important for you as an orc player to understand. If you don't really understand all the value of a truck or a transport itself has, is something like this Reaper and playing Space Marines. Is the people can't get a oath of moment target off on you if you're embarked in your transport, right? But if you are on foot with any of your units to any degree as an orc player, and you're, let's say you just wanted to stage in the building like some people like to do with tank busters or looters or even my boy Zod, Gladiator Reaper shreds you in Overwatch if you allow him to oath you, right? So you got to be aware of that as an orc player. And even if not, try to bait out something an Overwatch from a Reaper at all times with your least important units, and then move your most important units last to try to get it out early. So we have 2 Incursors and a Scout Squad, followed by Storm Strike, Hammer Speeder, and then 2 Vindicators. And then as for this mission, as for one of his notes real quick, my boy was really concise, and I appreciate that, which I'm sure we had to be for the language barrier, but very traditional Gladius list. He said, there is no way to prevent the Vindicator from firing and killing the kill rigs and the trucks. So in this case, you account for their range. So in that case, he just pretty much set them up in locations where he would say, I would just park them in spots where I knew that I could disembark safely from there. But other than that, once I'm staged and he does take his shots at my Vindicators, then at that point, it's not really a priority target, and he can kill other things. So he doesn't really focus on where it's at or what it's doing anymore. He starts to focus more on the mission. He also feels more about the Gladiator too. That the Gladiator, he needs to worry about the Gladiator now. So like I was saying earlier about Overwatch, that's what he was trying to kind of translate over to us, is that first priority mission when he was looking at this list is, one, what Vindicator can shoot at what based off its actual range, because as potent as a Vindicator is, it's only 24 inches. So that kind of is bad for, what people would consider anti-tank. So he'd maximize that. Some things could be safe because they simply could be further back, and the things that could be shot earlier, he would allow them to disembark safely as he could. Other than that, there's not enough activations from the enemy, and he gets really good trades off on this. So he ended up moving on from this one. Actually, I don't think he even told me what the score. I think I have to go back and pull it. I'll pull it up at the end, pull you guys at the score at the end, because I have to pull up a whole nother PDF thing. So then we go on to, and I did check this. It is on BCP because my boy was the Fire Chicken Club or something like that. Pretty funny. So then we go on to round 2, which was Tipping Point, Smoke and Mirrors, and then Purge the Foe, which everybody knows orc players absolutely love, hate. Then we have Tipping Point here. Something I should have mentioned earlier too about that first layout. Sorry, let me go back to it. I think Americans, we aren't used to. Let me see if I want to actually do this, guys, because I've been messing up, being delayed with some of my things, and I want to be using my tools. So let me use my tools today. I wanted to write on this actual thing. I have to change the presentation when I do this, just so you know. So hold on, pull it off. What's up? You get to see my face all up close. What's up, guys? Entire. There we go. Bam. All right, now I can do this. Well, I know what I'm doing. I'm doing the epic pen. If you do the epic pen, you gotta do the epic screen. Can I get this? Am I writing? Yes, I'm writing. Yes. So last time I was messing up, not doing this. All right. One thing I wanted Americans to actually point out, well, because when I used to play this back in the day, is how much of a what we called a kind of gauntlet this is right here in the middle, right? There's not some long firing range where people are gonna, and to a certain degree, are gonna be able to get a lot of volume of fire. They can shoot because you can't stage safely either. So it's a straight up gauntlet. It's like you get the stage up here to shoot. It's pretty condensed. There's not like big long lines of fire that can get in there too easily. And if they have to be infantry that's kind of like staging up or coming around or something coming around this side. So the middle is so chaotic when I used to play this, right? Because you're not really safe at any point. when people are closing the distance on you, but from like certain objectives, you kind of are, which is what I liked about WTC terrain. So it was interesting how he was mentioning with the kill rigs, they're going to get popped, but when he means they can disembark is because the amount of L-shaped runes there are, where he felt like he could be safe, and these little, of course, the basic. So I do appreciate and always have appreciated how the WTC is not as shooty, but in the certain lanes that it are, like I can shoot all the way across to this objective, but then it's kind of safe. So there are weak like spots necessarily because you could just come down from safe up here from WTC. But I don't think my American friends understand kind of like how congested this pit gets in. Because imagine you're not really getting your kill rig stuck in there. You know what I mean? How easy it would be to block out a kill rig on this objective. So that's why he's saying at a certain point he's using it just to get up in stage for its value and get the enemy to commit to it, which was what I wanted to point out on that first one. So let me see if I can put this pen back and move down. Yes, I can. Sweet. I haven't played that in a hot minute. So when I was looking at it, I was like, dude, I forgot. Because then now we look at round 2 and you see, okay, now we don't have that kind of you have to close the distance to get better lines of sight on me. Now you can see there's a bit more shooting out going on here. And then we have it with a tipping point. So you can see I'll write out, actually, we'll do that again. I'll write out where the deployment line is because he did have them written on. You can see them, but they're small for y'all. So tipping point for you guys looking at the screen, that's the deployment line. There you go. Boop to my American friends. All right, so like everybody said, tipping point for round 2, smoke and mirrors and purge the foe. And excuse my presentation to guys, I'm going to be going through a lot of stuff and I'm going to be trying to utilize my epic pen and be involved. So I will improve. Bear with me. So let's look at this enemy list real quick, and then we'll go over his notes, and I'll go over the chats. You guys are going hard right now. We have Adeptus, Custodes, Lines of the Emperor. So Blade Champion, Shield Captain, and Terminator armor, and a Dawn Eagle jet bike. So that's a bit different. I know some Custodes players are trying to pull off those Dawn Eagle jet bikes. 2 4-man units of guard, Custodian, Alaris, just a 2-man unit. 2 warden bricks, some prosecutors, a Venatari unit with that free rapid ingress, and then Inquisitor Draxus. Oh yeah, okay, I can see. I think you guys are putting up or putting down here. So luckily he was playing against Custodes on this deployment to a certain degree, right? So let's see his list. I don't have. He said, yeah, there wasn't too much of the shooting going on that he was worried about for long distance. He said he wanted the roll off, so he went first, was staged up aggressively, and then just pretty much wad, and he said I just crushed him. Like he just went straight forward, saying stuff like the Breaker Boys being damaged 3 and having that many units. Felt good. Of course, we know that the Wardens can fight on death, but have the 4-up feel no pain. But even in that case, they're becoming diminished, and then there's like 2 units left because you can see the Custo player doesn't really have enough, and he made sure, like you always should, as an Orc player, make sure you got the CP for fight on death. And of course, Unbridled Carnage, which as I've been getting kicking more games in with Warhorde again, because you guys know I like to mess around with a bunch of different detachments. I'm like, really, making sure I got my CP for those long activations of I'm Unbridled Carnaging and fighting on death and doing whatever else I got to do. Be prepared for interrupts and such like that. Maybe I want a heroic. There's a lot of stuff you can do. So having a lot of CP in the bank and being CP savvy is always a big deal. But in this case, he's like, dude, it was pretty straightforward. We didn't have much shooting to pop me. I can stage up with my transport safely and then get out and wall him at full potential. Yes. Yes. And if with looking at this layout, we know, the word towers can go off sometimes, kind of pop people, Custode players as well. So you pop a couple Wardens or a couple of Custodes. And let's see this round 3 from our friend. So on round 3, it's Hammer and Anvil, Hidden Supply. And I'll actually make sure I got my marker out so you guys can actually see. Yeah, I got it. Right. Yeah. Boom. Obviously, on war objectives, baby. Let's go. I love that they use these crates. I don't know how you guys feel, Americans, my fellow Americans, or people that are playing on GW. How do you feel about crates not being as prolific? Now I know they sometimes are, like on layout 8, for example, from GW. People will use crates there sometimes. I've seen that before. But in general, like you've seen, there's crates on every single one of these objectives. So not only are there these multiple big L-shaped terrains everywhere, but then you also got a couple, little crates scattered around. So I appreciate that. And that's why people call these different kind of dense kind of boards for our American friends that don't get to play on this. So Hidden Supply, Jordan and Trust. I was looking at the list real quick. So it was Chaos Demons, Plague Legion. Let's go. It's funny. I just played into this not too long ago. So we have a Demon Prince. This is the Font Spores Aura. So he has kind kind of like the Bellicor aura, where you can't shoot at him unless you're within 18 inches of the Demon Prince. Too bad he's playing War Horde. No, I was kidding. At least, you know, that helps the word towers, I guess. We have Epidemus. We have the Great Unclean One with Droning Shroud, another Great Unclean One, Rodigus, Labity, Biopiper, and the Changeling. Shout out to Rodigus. So we have 2 Plague Bearers, 3 Soul Grinders. And if you haven't played against the Nurgle Soul Grinders, just keep in mind that they do have indirect fire. I believe it's strength 7, -1, but it can have its actual AP increased in some way, I believe, in this detachment. I forgot which character does it. And then it's also lethal. So really, really good at chipping down orc units if they're not within transports. Other than that, this list is really focused on obviously making you take battle shocks and stuff. As for our gets list, sorry, I should have been saying that. He said because of their indirect fire threat, he had to like I just said, load as many units into transports as possible. And he said he prioritized dealing with Rodigus because +1 damage, and then his aura to reduce OC. And then he said, because you have to kill one of those and the Great Unclean One, otherwise, if they're unchecked, they can do just enough damage to throw the game. And that's very true. Another thing he says here is don't overestimate your damage. Make sure you kill them. And so he goes, make sure your 5 men are paired off so that each one they can end up going for 2-on-1. So pretty much he was trying to jump it. Let me go back to his list. Can I go back to this? Because I was been all over the place here. No, I can. I can. I gotta pull it over here. When we go back into his list, what he was saying is he was trying to put Snaggas and Breaker Boys into one of these big greater demons at once. That's exactly what I actually had to deal with myself. 2 Breaker Boys is way too much commitment, and 1 Snagga Boy simply isn't enough. So Snagga Boys, and they get off 6 to 8, and then the Breaker Boys can do everything else. The dev damage hammer makes a big difference. So it really came down to that, just making sure that he prioritized each one when he could. He had gotten to the Rodigus and one of the Great Unclean Ones to really make sure they can't get enough momentum to swing it back on him. And then just hope you pass your battle shocks when it's time, and have enough units on objectives so you can take continuous ones. But great job there. And then let's go back to round 4. Fight. Repping the channel down under. We'll let these get snow. Whoa, yeah, represent them orcs, dude. Because I know when I used to play, I've never seen orc players. Now, shout out to the get that I seen the other day at the local shop. Awesome. So we have round 4, Crucible of Battle, Inspired Leadership, Scorched Earth. Oh, where's my little marker? Magic pen. All right, right here. Oh, you guys can actually see when I pull it down. Dang, I don't feel that mysterious anymore. I thought I was secretive. Now you can just see me fumbling. Okay, whatever. Ooh, see, I just fumbled again. I made it look more like a highlighter. All right. Deployment lines. Boom. Dang, you guys can see how messed up my crook. I don't feel like you're judging my lines. I'm just kidding. All right, there we go. Actually, I'm an orc. Why would I have to draw straight lines? You know what I'm doing. All right, so we see y'all. Shut up. All right, so again, the little crates. Chat, let me know. How do you guys feel about this as people who play on GW? Do you guys appreciate the crates, right? Because, I mean, it's pretty dense already at the table. And then they're adding these little crates. Like, this is your one path for a vehicle. You know what I mean? Here's your one path for a vehicle. Unless you have something that can move through, but you don't, right? As an orc player. And, of course, you can move through here, hypothetically. But a lot of the time, people can and will move block you. So, a lot of move blocking positions, which I find fun. I found that fun. Scorched Earth, baby. Easy scoring game right there. So, let's look at the enemy list real quick. I put that away. He said, I see y'all. Shut up. All right. No. And we have Space Marines, Dark Angels, Stormlands Task Force, Azria, Judicia, and then Lionel Johnson. Ooh, we got 5 First City here. Let's go. Intercessors, 3 units of Deathwing Knight, Inner Circle Companions, and 3 Invaders ATV because he needed some units still to play the game. So let's take a look real quick. With what he brought with his fight first and the staging up you can do, I like that. But we'll talk about what Argit said about this game. There's one we had a little bit more notes. So he said, pay attention. They have 0 threat range. So take your time to ferry the units forward and use the kill rigs to get for line of sight on objectives. You don't need a bunch of different units to burn it down, but you do want to actually eventually try to burn down an objective so you can kind of focus where you're going to end up fighting. And of course, he said, again, save CP for fight on death because they do have the multiple fight first units. And he tries to get both of their fight first units to have multiple units kind of ganging up on them so they can't fight through enough of it and have your fight on death invested in it to either slow it or trade with it. He said he was lobbing grenades at Lionel Johnson and bomb squigs if he could. He said to keep the key units back inside of transports. He said so that they can kind of exploit their low objective control units, and then you can flip it with your objective control units. And he said he used his snagas to hunt their ATVs, and then at the end he went towards Lionel Johnson. He said, don't let the deep strike units, so obviously his Terminators, get into his, sorry, he didn't let the valuable units get into his valuable units. That's what we were talking about earlier, where he kind of went for the skirmishes and the trades. Pulling back his list, because he was trying to deliver gas. I just closed it. Yes, I did. All right, cool. La la la. So yeah, he was just trying to trade out with those units, and I just closed the notes. Thanks, bro. No, I didn't. Oh, here it is. Yee. All right, cool. Thanks for bearing with me, guys. I pressed too many things, too many nice buttons. And then he said, so he held back gas and the Breaker Boys units. That way he would put his Beast Snagger Boys units to flip the objectives early. And because he had low OC units kind of fighting him early to go into his first fights. So that's what I like about Snaggers as well, that I always mention about Snaggers, is that they can actually work outside of the WAAAGH, especially in Warhorde, because you can pop crit fives. So he, instead of skirmishing with just flash kits like you might do in other games, because of the value of all of these units and the investment they take, what he did was put forward, and because like we talked about earlier, he doesn't really have any threat from the vehicles other than the fights themselves. He can use them to dogpile the important fight first units also themselves, and kind of mitigate their ability to continue to fight down the street and go down on a spree, which means in that case, then he can use the rest of his units to flip objectives and then time his WAAAGH for a turn 3 WAAAGH, because he was going second and using the little leftover shooting he had to whittle them down. And in that case, he had all his hard-hitting units left over, had already kind of weakened his fight first, more elite units, or stranded / island them, or broke them down enough that they weren't really enough of a threat to push through. And in that case, then he hit them hard and delivered enough of a killing blow that they couldn't push back. So yeah, he said in this game, make sure you just take it easy if you see this kind of matchup. I think some of them do have more guns, but not every single one. And even if they do have more guns, you can still get it to go. Sorry, I'm moving this. All right, you can even if they still have guns, sorry, you can still make your way up the field, because how many transports and vehicles can they actually pop at once, especially if it's something like a kill rig, for example, with the densities of these terrains. So I like that. Great job there. And sorry guys if I fumble, we translated this, so there were some parts where I was reading something and I was like, I don't think that translates to correctly to me. But it's okay. It was still really good overall for the notes. And then we go to round 5, Crucible of Battle. Raise banners. Hey, let's go raise banners. People always sleeping on raised banners. Let's pull up the deployment real quick. You guys can actually visually see. Boom. I feel like I have to just show this to people who aren't used to playing on this terrain. That way, if you pause the screen, you can actually look at the deployments and how he would stage up. I actually really like this one. So in this game, he was against the Emperor's Children. Let's go, the big bads of the week. So we have 3 demon princes of Slanesh with wings, 3 exultant lords, and 1 lord, whatever his name is, and then Lucius the Eternal. So very character heavy, at least the amount of character. 2 units, 3 units of infractors, 2 units of tormentors, 2 rhinos, 3 units of noise marines. Keep it nice and tidy, right? So what their big maneuver here is, well, he actually sent me notes. They do have noise marines that can actually shoot. I was going to mention also here, but he mentioned the noise marines shooting out of the Chaos Rhinos firing deck is enough to pop the orc transports, like trucks. But he said it's not enough to pop something like a kill rig. So the kill rigs are actually quite important in this. If you even shove a kill rig out to claim objective, you know that in most regards the enemies won't shoot at them because they can't really shoot them nicely while within the transport. So in that case, they'll still scout out, move quickly, and then try to pop your trucks instead, in that case, because they know that's their value. So if they have to kind of disembark something, they're going to go disembark your truck, not your kill rig, because it's not good. And then he said, of course, they you still need to fight on death, because it's really important for that. And you need to use your trash unit to lock up their most important units. So multiple charges, multiple enemy units charging into 1 charge. And then we need to always appreciate heroic interventions as an orc player, right? So don't just look at the enemy and say, I'm going to charge into this and just crump you and not think about what's near him, because you could be using your trucks, your kill rigs, your grots, your storm boys, your flash gits to charge first, block off the enemy's heroic, and then force your units to go the opposite direction from the possible heroic. Because if you mess up the order of activations here and you end up charging, let's just say with like breaker boys, and you want to get all of them in, but because you roll hot, you have to base across the entire enemy unit. Well, you've probably over kind of committed yourself. And in this case, he said that's what he really made sure to avoid the most on this last mission, round 5, and just the optimal fight on death. So it seems like kill rigs were actually a big answer here. Were a big commitment and a big value of him to his games. And that's really what he wanted. So as for his key takeaways, he says, even if you're playing a very melee heavy centric list, just like this one, with Gazgul and the Snagas and all the punching units, you still need a certain amount of shooting. Because if you're just straight melee, you're going to get blocked way too easily, not do efficient enough trades, which is what most of us are kind of agreeing. But I'm glad that even though he went very punchy, as you can see, he brought gas and all the pretty boys, the punch hard, he still said, I just really, really needed those guns. So he's just trying to put down the efficiency of how much it was to have good trash left over. Yeah, and he goes, because if an enemy has just too much trash and you have all melee, then you're just gonna get bogged down, do nothing. So yeah, and he said, so the shooting was indispensable in those exact words. So let's go over his list one more time. Is it's a shout out to our friend from China with the crispy chicken event. We have 2 beast bosses, Boss Nickrock, Gazgul Thraka, 2 war bosses, 1 with Follow Me Lads, 2 units of Snaggers, 2 trucks, 2 breaker boys, 2 flash kits, 2 Gretchen, 2 kill rigs, and 3 mega nabs. I love how it's just 2 of everything, right? We've talked about in other videos where like a lot of times as an orc, you don't necessarily have to take 3 and 3 or something. If you do, it's usually because you know it's a tank buster nowadays. But you see a lot of 2-2-2 whenever you're going for like these elite kind of transporty punchy missile units of orcs. But because everything's neatly packed away, it's hard to get the initiative on us in certain matchups, hard to get enemies oath sauce, for example, on us. And it allows us to stage and choose whether to be hyper aggressive on a unit or be defensive and packed away safely in little neat lunch boxes, which is kind of what this list is really centralized about, right? You got Gaz on your list, you know what's stay in the middle. And I'm glad he paid for that 3rd Mega Nom. That's the right choice, in my opinion. Where we're at right now in the meta, if you're paying for gas, I truly, truly try to fit that 3rd Mega Nom. If I really can't, I'm not going to cry about it, but it does make a difference in every game for the survivability of gas and just how much enemy has to commit to him. Because even if you have 1 left, that's all you need for his buffs. So shout out to our friend from China with his WTC layouts and packet. Whoa, I appreciate that. You be a cunning get and check out our new order markers that are in our store. So shout out to you gets being cunning. Help you guys get all the orders set on the table, nice and clean for all you gets to get stuck in. If you enjoyed the clip, check out the full video here. If you'd like to see more tactics, click here.
Let's get stuck in, lads!